The Philippine government has submitted an unprecedented request for a PHP 299.3 billion, $5.2 billion defense budget for fiscal year 2026, marking the largest military allocation in its history. If approved, this would mark the third consecutive year of double-digit growth in defense spending, underscoring the urgency felt in Manila as tensions with China in the South China Sea continue to escalate. The figure reflects a 16% increase compared to 2025's defense budget, which itself represented a 14% rise from the previous year. This surge in funding demonstrates how the Philippines, traditionally one of the region's smaller military powers, is now taking a far more assertive stance in protecting its sovereignty and responding to the intensifying strategic rivalry in the wider Indo-Pacific. The proposed budget is not simply about incremental upgrades, it is a bold attempt to accelerate modernization and close long-standing capability gaps at a time when the security environment around the archipelago is rapidly deteriorating. At the center of the proposed allocation lies the Horizon 3 phase of the revised Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, modernization program. This phase is designed to give the Philippine military the means to not only defend its territory but also project power and deter adversaries. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s administration has placed modernization as a top national security priority, viewing external threats as immediate rather than distant. Unlike earlier phases, which primarily focused on acquiring basic platforms such as transport aircraft and helicopters, Horizon 3 is about leapfrogging into advanced systems. This includes the integration of multi-role fighter jets, airborne early warning platforms, and aerial refueling tankers, all of which would fundamentally transform the country's air defense and strike capabilities. The proposed acquisitions for the Philippine Air Force are particularly ambitious. At present, the country has no supersonic multi-role fighter in its fleet, relying instead on light attack aircraft such as the FA-50PH. The 2026 budget seeks to change this by enabling the procurement of a new generation of fighters capable of beyond visual range combat and precision strike missions. The two leading contenders remain the Saab JAS-39 Gripen from Sweden and the Lockheed Martin F-16 Block 70 from the United States. Either option would significantly boost the Philippines' ability to defend its airspace and challenge Chinese aircraft operating near disputed maritime features. When combined with airborne early warning systems like the Saab Global Eye or Northrop Grumman E-2D, Manila would be able to extend radar coverage beyond 400 kilometers, providing vital situational awareness over the West Philippine Sea. The introduction of aerial refueling platforms, likely through Airbus A330 MRTT aircraft, would further enhance endurance, allowing fighters to remain airborne for more than 8 hours and conduct continuous patrols across vast maritime zones. Collectively, these capabilities represent a transformational leap for a country that has historically struggled to maintain even minimal air defense coverage. The naval component of the 2026 proposal is equally significant. The Philippines has already begun deploying BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, acquired from India, with coastal batteries positioned to cover critical approaches such as the Luzon Strait and the waters off Palawan. With ranges of up to 290 kilometers and speeds approaching Mach 3, the BrahMos system gives Manila a credible anti-ship capability for the first time. These systems will integrate with existing Jose Rizal-class frigates, procured from South Korea, as well as new corvettes currently under acquisition. Together, they will form the backbone of a layered maritime defense designed to complicate Chinese naval operations in Philippine waters. Naval infrastructure is also receiving attention. Bases at Subic Bay and Oyster Bay are being upgraded to accommodate larger surface combatants and logistical hubs, while forward deployment at Antonio Bautista Air Base in Palawan and Basa Air Base in Pampanga will allow rapid response to Chinese incursions. The Philippines is not alone in ramping up its defense spending. Across Southeast Asia, nations are responding to Beijing's growing assertiveness by acquiring new strike systems and modernizing their fleets. Vietnam has invested in Bastion P coastal defense batteries and Jeopard-class frigates. Indonesia is purchasing Rafale fighter jets and Scorpion-class submarines. Malaysia has approved contracts for FA-50 light combat aircraft and littoral mission ships. Taken together, these acquisitions suggest a regional shift, Southeast Asian states are no longer relying on diplomacy alone but are instead embracing deterrence strategies centered on maritime domain awareness and long-range strike capabilities. Manila's proposed 2026 budget firmly places it within this trend, signaling a new willingness to match rhetoric with action. China's behavior in the South China Sea provides the clearest explanation. Beijing has militarized disputed reefs, deployed maritime militias, and repeatedly violated Philippine territorial waters. Incidents of harassment against Filipino fishermen and resupply missions to outposts like the BRP Sierra Madre at Second Thomas Shoal have become routine. For Manila, the threat is not abstract, it is immediate and pressing. The stakes involve more than territorial claims. Control over the West Philippine Sea also affects freedom of navigation along vital sea lanes, which underpin both the Philippine economy and the broader stability of global trade. The defense budget proposal also comes as joint Philippine-U.S. military cooperation intensifies. Expanded maritime patrols, live-fire exercises, and the rotation of American forces through Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, sites all point to a deepening alliance. Manila's modernization program is designed not only to boost self-reliance but also to ensure interoperability with U.S. and allied forces in the event of a conflict. This alignment strengthens deterrence by making it clear that aggression against the Philippines would have wider implications, drawing in its treaty ally. It also reinforces the U.S. goal of maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific, where smaller states are not coerced into submission by larger powers. What makes the 2026 proposal especially notable is the degree of domestic consensus behind it. Historically, large-scale defense spending faced political resistance in Manila, with critics arguing that funds were better spent on social programs. Today, however, there is growing recognition that external threats are urgent and existential. Sovereignty, resource security, and economic lifelines all depend on the ability to deter coercion. If approved, the 2026 budget will mark a turning point in Philippine defense policy. It represents a move away from a purely reactive stance toward a proactive strategy designed to protect sovereignty, safeguard sea lanes, and signal to Beijing that Manila is prepared to defend its interests. The Philippines' proposed $5.2 billion defense budget for 2026 is more than just a financial figure. It is a declaration of intent, a recognition that the security environment has fundamentally changed and that old assumptions about deterrence and defense are no longer adequate. With new fighter jets, missile systems, and naval upgrades on the horizon, Manila is preparing to reshape its armed forces for the 21st century. In doing so, the country is not only defending its territorial claims but also contributing to a broader regional effort to maintain balance and stability in the face of China's rapid rise. The next year will determine whether this ambitious plan becomes reality, but one thing is clear, the Philippines has entered a new era of defense modernization, one defined by urgency, determination, and the resolve to safeguard sovereignty in some of the world's most contested waters.